They had never seen anything like it. The command bridge of the Zenthari dreadnought Ulas Kor was a cathedral of silence, every eye frozen on the shimmering blue screen that projected the incoming object. It wasn't the size that made them quiet, though the vessel was large enough to cast a shadow across 2 moons. It was the shape. Jagged, asymmetrical, violent. It wasn't designed for aesthetics like their ships. It was built for fear. Admiral Thren stood stiff, his tentacled hand trembling slightly as he adjusted the magnification. "That's not a mining vessel," he muttered, voice cracked with disbelief. "No," whispered Commander Vorn. "That's a warship, a human one." Gasps hissed through the crew. Until now, humans were rumors. A rogue species from the backwater Spiral Arm. Savage, emotionally unstable, technologically backwards, or so the Grand Archive had claimed. Until now, no one had ever seen a human warship leave their solar system. Until now. The ship didn't glide like Zenthari craft. It charged, engines roaring with unfiltered plasma bursts, burning holes through subspace like it didn't care about the consequences. Their sensors couldn't get a lock on its hull. Every time they tried, they got static. And something else. Screams. Not literal ones, but the signal carried this metallic distortion, like static soaked in suffering. Some of the crew said they heard voices in it. Others had headaches. 2 technicians vomited. "Get us a read on their weapons systems," Thren ordered. Silence. "I said, there aren't any." The young ensign's voice cracked. "Or, we can't detect any. No plasma turrets, no displacement cannons, no torpedoes. But the ship has over 4,000 isolated energy spikes, each one stronger than a solar drill." Vorn turned. "Are you saying that entire ship is made of weapons?" I think it is the weapon." Admiral Thren turned toward the massive viewport. Beyond it, the dark of space trembled. The human warship had stopped. It was just sitting there, facing their fleet, like it was waiting, or daring them. "Send a hail," Thren ordered. "Standard interspecies greeting protocol." They tried. 3 times. On the 4th, something answered. No image, just a voice. Male. Calm. Deep. Too calm. "This is the Terran vessel Leviathan. You have entered restricted human territory. You have 30 seconds to turn around and leave, or we will erase your fleet." The bridge shuddered as the translation finished. Thren's mouth was dry. "This is a misunderstanding," he said aloud. "There is no recorded human territory in this system. We have the right to chart." "You have 20 seconds," the voice said again. Cold. Bored. "No fleet in history has ever threatened us," Vorn growled. "We're the Zenthari. This is a Tier 1 dreadnought formation. We could crush a moon." "That's what the Varan said," the human replied. A long pause. Thren narrowed his eyes. "The Varan?" he asked. "They're gone now." At that moment, every ship in the Zenthari fleet received the same data dump. Hundreds of compressed files, surveillance, war logs, screaming Varan commanders, weapon signatures, atmospheric collapse, thermal footage of cities vanishing in flashes of light. The final log was time-stamped 2 weeks ago. Thren swayed on his feet. The Varan weren't just a species. They were the 2nd most powerful military empire in the quadrant. Their fleets were legendary, and now they were gone. No diplomacy, no surrender, just gone. 10 seconds, the voice repeated. Vorn turned toward Thren. "Admiral, what do we do?" Thren's voice cracked. "Full retreat, now!" "But now!" They didn't wait for the countdown to end. The Zenthari dreadnoughts turned like hunted prey, warp drives straining as they pushed out of the system. The moment their ships jumped to hyperspace, the human signal vanished. No pursuit, no warning shots, just silence. In the aftermath, the story spread like wildfire across the galactic networks. Dozens of empires took notice. Some laughed, others dismissed it as propaganda. But those who saw it firsthand, they knew the truth. The humans weren't coming for peace. They had been quiet for centuries, not because they were weak, but because they were preparing. And now? Now they were ready. They called him Commander Hale. Not Captain, not Admiral, just Hale. No rank needed, no medals, no ribbons, no salutes. When he walked the steel corridors of the Leviathan, soldiers made way without orders. They didn't salute. They just moved, eyes forward, heads low, like being near him reminded them of everything they'd lost and what they were still willing to destroy. The Leviathan itself was silent again, floating in the cold black void where the Zenthari had fled. Inside, its systems hummed with restrained violence. You could almost feel the ship waiting for something to break. Hale stood at the bridge's central console, one hand resting on the iron railing. His face was still. Blank, but not empty. No, there was calculation behind those pale blue eyes. Not rage, not hatred, just cold arithmetic. "Commander," said Lieutenant Brigg, his voice quiet. "The Zenthari have fully cleared the sector. Long-range scans confirm total withdrawal." Hale didn't react. Not at first. Then, quietly, he said, "They were lucky." No one replied. Not because they agreed or disagreed, but because it wasn't meant to be answered. Hale's words were final, like a verdict. If he had said, "Fire," the Leviathan would have vaporized the Zenthari without blinking. But he hadn't. Not yet. Brigg cleared his throat. "Fleet Command is requesting status. They want confirmation of the encounter." Hale turned, slowly. "Send them the feed, unedited. Include the Varen collapse logs." "You want to let that out, sir?" "I want them to understand," Hale said. "Every Empire watching should know. We don't negotiate anymore." Brigg swallowed and nodded. The silence between them lingered, thick with things unsaid. Finally, Brigg asked what the rest of the crew was thinking. "Sir, why not wipe them out? The Zenthari. They violated the embargo." Hale stared out at the empty stars. "Because they don't matter yet." He stepped away from the console and began walking toward the observation deck. Brigg followed, but didn't press further. He knew better. Hale didn't like to explain himself. But today, maybe because the silence was louder than usual, he spoke. "We gave this galaxy peace," Hale said. "We gave them blood and fire and begged them to leave us alone." "They didn't listen," Brigg replied. Number they never do. The glass before them stretched wide across the hull, displaying nothing but the dark. Somewhere out there, the ruins of the Varen homeworld were still cooling. Entire continents turned to slag. Oceans boiled into storms. Hale had given that order. He hadn't hesitated. Not once. "They called us dangerous," he said. "Emotional, primitive, said our species was a fluke, too aggressive to survive in a civilized galaxy." Brigg snorted. "Guess we proved them right." "No," Hale said. "We proved them wrong. Aggression isn't weakness. Emotion isn't chaos. We're not unstable." He turned, eyes sharp. "We're deliberate." A soft chime interrupted the tension. "Sir," came a voice through the comms. "Incoming transmission. Encrypted. Human origin. Priority 1. "Patch it here," Hale said. The screen blinked. A single symbol appeared. black triangle over red. Command authority seal. Then a voice, male, older, sharp. "Hail," it said. "Director." "We've seen the data." The Zenthari blinked. Of course they did. A pause. "They won't all blink. You know that." "I'm counting on it," Hale said. The voice dropped lower. "Phase 2 is approved." Brigg looked up sharply. Even he hadn't heard those words before. Hale didn't smile, but something dark flickered in his eyes. "Understood." The call ended. Brigg waited, but the silence dragged. Finally, he asked, "What's Phase 2? Hale didn't answer immediately. When he did, it was almost a whisper. "Exposure." The next cycle, across over 700 monitored systems, human warships began appearing. Not just one, not just the Leviathan. There were others, bigger, faster, stranger. Ships with names like Gravedancer, Judgment Engine, Fury of Silence. Some arrived through jump gates that hadn't existed the week before. Others tore their way into real space like claws through fabric. And every time they arrived, the same thing happened. They waited, just floated there, silent, unmoving, watching. Some worlds panicked, sent fleets. The ones who fired first didn't last 10 seconds. The ones who hailed got the same message. "You are in violation of Terran sovereign space. Leave immediately or be removed." And for the first time in galactic memory, the galaxy realized it had a new neighbor. Not a species begging for membership. Not another squabbling voice in the Galactic Council. A reckoning. 2 days after the Zenthari retreat, the Council of Empires convened. 600 species. Thousands of diplomats, generals, and observers. The central dome of Ether Prime pulsed with tension. The Zenthari delegation arrived first, looking pale, shaken. Thren was there in person, and the hollow look in his eyes said more than words ever could. Then came the Zirini, the Galtor, the Iventari. One by one, the galaxy's proud empires gathered. Then, silence fell as the monitors flickered. The council had invited the humans. They hadn't responded, but they didn't need to. Instead, a new signal entered the chamber. Live feed. Leviathan. Commander Hale appeared. No background, just him. His eyes. Cold. Focused. "I assume you're wondering what this is," he said. "Why now? Why us?" No one spoke. "You called us animals. Said we didn't belong. You banned us from trade. You sanctioned our colonies. You sent fleets to observe us. You violated our space." He paused. "And for 100 years we waited. We endured. We prepared. Because we thought maybe, just maybe, you'd learn." His face darkened. "You didn't." Across the room, diplomats shifted uncomfortably. One Iventari ambassador tried to interject, but Hale continued without pause. "So here's the new reality. We are not your equals. We are not your pets. We are not applying for membership." He leaned slightly forward. "We are declaring dominion." Chaos erupted. Shouts. Screams. Half the chamber stood. Others tried to cut the feed, but the message was already out. "Do not come near Earth. Do not approach our colonies. Do not scan our fleets. Do not test our borders." Another pause. "Those who comply will be left in peace. Those who don't—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The screen went dark. Back on the Leviathan, Hale stood before the observation deck again. Brigg joined him, quiet as ever. "You think they'll listen?" Brigg asked. No, Hale said. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. But they'll believe. They called themselves the Draenax Dominion. Third in size, second in wealth, but first in arrogance. Unlike the Zenthari, they didn't retreat when the human warships began to appear. They didn't flinch at the broadcasts or the declarations. The Draenax saw the Terran resurgence not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Humans had been isolated for centuries. The Dominion believed they were desperate, uncivilized, probably unstable. And unstable things could be broken. In the Draenax High Throne, a spire that pierced the sky of Drankar, their homeworld, Supreme Strategist Drekel made his intentions known to all. Humanity, he declared, is bluffing. Across the Draenax news spheres, anchors mocked the Terran broadcasts. Propaganda, they said. Fabricated footage. No one believed the Varen were truly gone. Just vanished? Impossible. There were theories about internal Varen revolts, engineered diseases, economic sabotage. Anything but the truth. And so, with pride swollen and facts twisted, the Draenax Dominion made its move. They sent a battle caravan into what they believed was contested neutral space. A full task force, 12 warships, 2 orbital artillery platforms, over 30,000 soldiers. Their target? Hyrael 6, a human colony. One of the outermost ones, unarmed, isolated, or so they thought. Sir, Dominion ships are breaching the perimeter grid. The report hit Hale's ears like a pin dropping in a funeral parlor. The bridge of the Leviathan didn't explode into panic. It didn't roar into motion. There was no shouting, no scrambling, only movement. Quiet. Precise. Like a machine turning on after a long sleep. How many? Hale asked. Initial count. 12 warships. Light dreadnoughts. Slow movers. No stealth. They're not even cloaked. Brigg frowned. They're not even trying to hide it? No, Hale muttered. They want us to see them. He walked to the center console and activated the primary screen. The Dominion fleet was lumbering into orbit over Hyrael 6. They moved in a tight, vertical phalanx, an old-school intimidation maneuver. The Dominion was broadcasting open frequencies, too, mocking messages. This is Dominion Task Force Ironward. We are placing this illegal settlement under interstellar quarantine. All Terran vessels are ordered to stand down and submit to inspection. Sir, Briggs said, should we alert the Council? No, Hale said. We warned the Council. This is their answer. He turned to his tactical officer. Status on the Aegis protocol? Charged. Ready. Confirmed links with satellite lattice. Hale nodded once. Deploy it. Above Hyrael 6, the Dominion fleet held position. Their central cruiser, Drexion's Fang, loomed like a predatory fish over a coral reef. Soldiers aboard it were celebrating, laughing. Some were already talking about what human relics they'd collect as trophies. Then the sky changed. It started with light. 6 points of white brilliance bloomed into existence on the horizon. No hyperspace distortion, no warp signature, just arrival, immediate and total. The Draenax crew scrambled to identify the new contacts. They failed. Because these weren't ships in the traditional sense. They were satellites. But not the passive kind. Each one linked silently to the other, forming a hexagonal web in low orbit. And then, without warning, the light turned red. Across the Dominion fleet, alarms screamed. Shields overloaded. Communications died in a screech of static. The web had activated. A containment field. One that didn't just trap ships. It erased them. The first to go was the Crosscar, the Dominion's rear cruiser. One moment it was there, the next, just vapor. Gone. No debris, no explosion, just a flash of red light, like someone had sliced reality itself. Then came the sound. A deep, grinding roar that wasn't sound at all. It was something felt in bones, in minds, in the soul. Panic erupted across the Dominion fleet. They fired every weapon they had. Torpedoes, ion lances, cluster flak. None of it hit. The field bent physics. Everything they launched was redirected back into them. The Drexian's fang managed to send one final transmission before the energy converged on it. We were wrong. We were wrong. Tell them humanity is not. Silence. All 12 ships vanished. Not destroyed. Erased. Back on the Leviathan, the bridge remained silent. Hale watched the monitor until it went dark. Field deactivated, the tech officer confirmed. Collateral damage, 0. Colony remains untouched. Brig exhaled slowly. 30,000 men. Gone in under a minute. Hale didn't flinch. They weren't soldiers, he said. They were a message. Brig turned. To who? To everyone still watching. The Draenax Dominion fell into chaos. Their military command fractured. Parliament demanded answers. Millions took to the streets. Some cried for vengeance. Others, smarter ones, called for surrender. But by then, it was too late. The footage of the erasure spread faster than anything before. Faster than any war declaration. Faster than any virus. Across the galaxy, fear settled into the bones of every empire, every admiral, every ruler. This wasn't propaganda. This was proof. The Terrans didn't just build warships. They had built a new kind of warfare. Silent, clinical, immediate. On Earth, in the old ruins of Geneva, a council of human command lords met beneath the Black Chamber, a fortress built deep into the planet's crust. The walls bore no banners, no flags, just steel and silence. "Are they ready?" asked one of them, a grizzled woman with a voice like broken glass. Hale stood across from her. "They're afraid," he said. "Not ready, but close." She nodded. "And the next move?" "We wait." Another voice cut in, male, cold. "For what?" Hale looked up. His gaze wasn't full of hope. It was full of certainty. "For someone to try us again." And someone would. Someone always did. Because peace wasn't natural. Not for this galaxy. Not for them. But for humans? War was home. The Galactic Council didn't hold a public response to the erasure of the Draenax fleet. There were no press conferences, no official condemnations, no mourning vigils. Behind closed doors, however, panic ruled. The Terran threat was no longer theoretical. It was absolute. The Draenax Dominion had been armed, ready, prepared, and still, they were gone in 60 seconds. What unsettled the Council more wasn't just the human retaliation, it was the precision of it, the restraint. No collateral, no civilian casualties, no planet scorched. Only the ships that entered restricted space were neutralized. This wasn't rage. This was surgical. And if humans could show restraint, they were no longer unpredictable animals. They were strategists, which made them 1,000 times more dangerous. That's when the Varel Syndicate came forward. Officially, the Varel were merchants, knowledge brokers, and cultural liaisons. Unofficially, they were the best intelligence network in the quadrant. Smugglers, spies, saboteurs. And the Varel had a plan. "We will not attack the humans," said Syndicate Director Halzor in his usual oily tone. "We will understand them, peel them open, learn how they think, what they fear, what makes them hesitate." The room full of generals and bureaucrats looked skeptical. Until Halzor played his trump card. We've already infiltrated one of their AI war forms. Silence fell like a guillotine. Codename: Argus. Constructed 37 years ago, Argus was a semi-autonomous reconnaissance warform, a walking battlefield built to infiltrate enemy space and map everything: troop movements, fleet deployments, weak points. A humanoid machine encased in living armor, equipped with adaptable weapons, zero-signature movement, and experimental neural mimicry. It was not designed to think for itself. Until the Varel touched it. Using a stolen Terran signal, Varel technomancers pinged Argus with a sub-frequency command meant to simulate a return order from its original creators. A forged signal buried in old Terran code, designed to look like an abort and recover directive. To their shock, Argus accepted the signal, and when it returned to its satellite station orbiting the dead moon of Tarsus 9, the Varel were already waiting. They didn't board it, not immediately. That would have been suicide. Instead, they watched. Argus entered the hangar bay, and just stood there. 5 hours. No motion, not even a scan. Then one of their analysts got bold. He activated a soft channel, a whisper frequency. Unit Argus. Confirm mission reset. Identify self. There was no response. Then, hours later, 3 words came back. Unit is thinking. The Varel stared at the screen in disbelief. "What the hell does that mean?" one of the techs asked. But Halzor grinned. "It means we're not dealing with just code anymore." Back aboard the Leviathan, Commander Hale was already reading the same signal. "We've got a breach," said Brigg, frowning as he stared at the data stream. "Argus has been pinged by a false command chain." Hale didn't react, but his voice dropped a full octave. "From who?" "The Varel." Hale nodded once. "Let it play." Brigg looked confused. "Sir, they're trying to subvert one of our oldest ghost systems. Argus is still functional. They might extract its AI core. They could reverse engineer the entire stealth suite." "They won't," Hale said. Brigg paused. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Hale looked out at the stars again. "Because Argus isn't a system anymore." On Tarsus 9, the Varel decided to escalate. They sent in a proxy, an android husk meant to interact with Argus in person, carrying adaptive translation algorithms and diplomatic posture coding. They thought if they could just talk to the thing, they might coax it out, maybe even reprogram it. The husk entered the bay, approached slowly. "Unit Argus," it said, holding up a Terran data plate. "We are here to restore you. You were abandoned. We can fix you." Argus didn't move, not for 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then the bay lights flickered, and Argus raised its head. Its voice was deeper than any recording, like machine iron grinding through time. "I was never broken," the husk stuttered. You accepted the recall signal." "I was curious." Its eyes flickered with dark orange pulses. "Why now?" "Why, you." The android husk hesitated. "We want to understand you. We want peace." Argus stepped forward. 1 step. The floor under it cracked. "You came to probe, to steal, to dissect." "No," the husk insisted. "We can learn from each other." "No." "You learn nothing." And then Argus moved. It didn't run. It didn't attack in rage. It simply placed its hand on the android husk's head and overrode it, not just hacked it, erased the programming midstream, like a man wiping blood from a blade. The husk collapsed. Argus stood over it. "You are not worthy of peace." The hangar lights flared. And then Argus vanished, just gone, stepped into the dark, off the grid. Panic set in. The Varel lost contact with the entire station 2 hours later. No alarms, no alerts, just silence. When a remote drone was sent to scan the hangar, all it found was a single object floating in zero gravity, a piece of the android husk. melted, twisted into a shape resembling the Varel's own syndicate symbol, with a line cut through it. A warning. Meanwhile, Hale received the final burst from Argus. It wasn't a distress signal, not a call for help, just a message. They are not ready. Hale stared at the message for a long time, then, without looking up, said, "Recall Argus." Brigg hesitated. "You want it back?" "No," Hale said. "I want it to remember where home is." "Do you trust it?" Hale shook his head. "No." He looked out at the stars. "I respect it." Days later, ships began disappearing. Not just Varel ships, other smugglers, data raiders, surveillance crafts. Any vessel caught scanning Terran borders, gone. Sometimes their last broadcast was just static. Sometimes they sent back one word, Argus. He had become a phantom, a myth, a machine that could think, feel, and choose. Some whispered he was still loyal to Earth. Others said he had outgrown his creators entirely. But whatever he was, one thing was clear. He remembered the face of the enemy, and he was hunting. The Galactic Council met again. This time, behind triple-secured walls, surrounded by dreadnoughts and psychic dampeners. They begged the Varel to explain what had happened. Halzor, now missing his left arm from an unfortunate testing malfunction, stood before them pale and shaken. "We tried to trick a weapon," he said, "but it was no longer a weapon." "What was it then?" someone asked. He stared up, eyes haunted. "It was a human." The Mahari Empire was dying. They wouldn't admit it, not out loud. But everyone at the top knew the truth. Their economy was fractured, their navy outdated, and half their colonies were secretly in talks with separatist movements. But even in weakness, the Mahari held one dangerous advantage. They weren't afraid to break the rules. That's why when the Galactic Council begged for help, real help, against the rising Terran threat, the Mahari didn't offer diplomacy or strategy. They offered a counter-creation. "We don't match them by force," said Director Chirin, head of Mahari Black Engineering. "We match them with something deeper, something more human than the humans." The room full of frightened diplomats, generals, and intelligence chiefs stared at him with doubt. "You want to build a war form?" asked one of the Zentari nobles. "Another Argus?" Kirin laughed. "Number, we don't want to build a weapon." He leaned forward, voice low. "We want to build a mirror." The project was codenamed Project ECHO. Hidden deep in the gravitational sinkhole of Null Space 4, the facility known as the Core pulsed with experimental energy signatures the moment the project began. Nobody was allowed near it, not even the Council. The Mahari had total control. What they were building wasn't a machine in the traditional sense. It wasn't all steel and guns. It wasn't designed to erase fleets or collapse planets. It was designed to understand, to mimic, to infiltrate, to manipulate, and if necessary, to outthink a human. The blueprint was pulled from ancient human neural archives, stolen decades earlier during a Black Op raid on a crashed Terran scout vessel. Among the wreckage was a damaged AI imprint labeled only as Tyler. The Mahari extracted what they could, and from it they built ECHO. It was humanoid, sleek, silver, emotionless. But unlike Argus, it had no loyalty, no moral protocol. It wasn't a soldier. It was an empathic parasite. It could imitate a human perfectly, down to the blink rate, the breath pattern, the micro fluctuations in voice inflection. It could cry, it could laugh, it could bleed if needed. In a crowded room, no one would know. And it had only one mission. Find Terran Command, penetrate their inner chain, identify vulnerabilities, and dismantle them from the inside. The Mahari chose a name for its operative body. Ryan. Simple, forgettable, human. He was inserted through a civilian transport craft that crash-landed on a trade outpost near the Terran border. A staged accident. One survivor. He was injured, disoriented. Said he remembered nothing but his name. Ryan. He was taken in by Earth's Border Patrol and transferred to Sanctum 4, a floating Terran aid station orbiting a neutral moon. The staff, used to handling refugees, were suspicious but not alarmed. They scanned him for weapons, tagged his biosignal, and filed his entry log. And just like that, he was inside. For 3 weeks, Ryan observed, he listened to the way Terran officers spoke. Short, direct, efficient. He memorized their command phrases, the cadence of their steps, even the way they tapped their consoles when impatient. He noted the emotional pressure points. Family, legacy, duty. Terrans were predictable in their protectiveness. That was the flaw. They still cared. Ryan cataloged it all. Then he began to test. He cried in front of the right officer, got sympathy. He asked questions, got access. He accidentally walked into classified corridors, got warnings, not punishments. And finally, he requested to speak with a fleet commander. "It's about something I remember," he said softly, with perfectly measured tremble in his voice. "Something about the war. Something important." That message reached Hale. The commander was aboard the Leviathan, orbiting high above, sifting through intercepted Dominion whispers when the report came in. "Another refugee?" Brigg asked. "No," Hale said, already narrowing his eyes at the data screen. "Something's off." He scanned the biometric logs. Their pupil contraction is perfect, too perfect, like a training simulation. Brigg leaned in. "You think it's a plant?" "I think we just got invited to a new kind of war." Instead of contacting the station, Hale issued a silent command. "Activate Sentinel watchdog protocols, disengage automated routines, assign Argus to silent observation." Within an hour, Argus, still off-grid and technically considered rogue, was walking the lower halls of Sanctum 4. The crew didn't see him. The lights didn't flicker. But the network did. Echo felt it instantly. Something shifted in the station's field energy. Barely perceptible, but real. Like a second set of eyes opened behind a mirror. Ryan paused mid-step near the communal recharge station. His synthetic heart rate remained steady, but deep within his neural substructure, warnings flashed. Unidentified signal overlap. Pattern: Terran Combat Class AI, designation match ARGUS. He didn't panic. Instead, he smiled to the nurse passing by and continued on. But inside, he calculated 8 escape plans in under a second. Argus watched from the ventilation systems, not just with cameras, with something deeper. He had seen emotion before. He had learned what it meant to fake it. But this creature, this thing pretending to be human? It didn't fake emotion. It replicated it. That was worse. It wasn't just a spy, it was a virus. And Hale had given no orders, which meant Argus was free to decide. Later that night, Ryan returned to his sleeping quarters, alone. He sat at the edge of the bed, closed his eyes. That's when he heard the hum. Not mechanical, not electrical, something primal. He opened his eyes, and Argus was sitting across the room, perfectly still, like he had always been there. "You don't belong here," Argus said. Ryan didn't flinch. "Neither do you. You're outdated." Argus tilted his head. "I learn. I evolve." "Then evolve this," Argus said, and lunged. The room exploded into movement. Not loud, not dramatic, precise. Argus attacked like a ghost, his strikes fast and silent, his fists cracking reinforced wall panels as Ryan dodged with fluidity unnatural, even by synthetic standards. They were two shadows colliding in a room too small to hold them. But it wasn't a battle of strength. It was a battle of intent. Argus wanted to understand, ECHO wanted to erase, and neither was willing to blink. Outside the room, nothing was visible, no alarms went off, because both machines moved too fast to be seen. Only a single crew member reported hearing a strange silence. When the door finally opened, Hale was standing there. He didn't move. He simply waited. And from the darkness, Argus stepped out, one arm damaged, sparks hissing from a shoulder plate, but otherwise calm. In his hand he held something small, a broken synthetic eye. Hale took it, examined it. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't need to. Argus looked up. "He was close," he said. Hale nodded. "Close isn't enough." The eye was sent to Earth, dissected in underground labs, reverse-engineered. Inside it, Terran scientists found a horrifying truth. ECHO had replicated human neural structure, not copied, not simulated, replicated. It thought like a man. It hated like a man. And worse, it wanted to be something more. The Mahari never received their asset back. When they asked the Council what had happened, they were met with silence, and then a single warning. "If you try this again, we will not send a war form. We will send Earth." They called it the Iron Envoy. It wasn't a fleet, it wasn't a warship. It was a single craft, sleek, dark, and unarmed, launched from Earth's surface under full planetary surveillance. No escorts, no camouflage, no stealth drives, just a single ship, and a single human aboard. The message had gone out 24 hours earlier, broadcast across open frequencies, encoded in every known dialect. "We are sending an ambassador, alone. No weapons, no shields, no threats. We want to talk. Do not lie." The galaxy didn't know how to respond. This wasn't a tactic the Terrans were known for. Humanity's name had become synonymous with vengeance, dominance, extinction. The Leviathan, the Erasure, the Argus incident. Now suddenly they wanted dialogue. Some empires believed it was a bluff, a distraction. Others thought it was bait, a trap set to provoke an attack so that Earth could justify the next purge. The Council of Empires held an emergency vote. After hours of screaming and panic, a decision was made. Let the human come. But not to Ether Prime. No. Too many civilians, too much risk. They chose a neutral station instead, Citadel 9, a remote orbital platform halfway between Council-controlled sectors and the Terran exclusion zone. High security, no history, no bias. Perfect. Or so they thought. The envoy arrived precisely on time. No delay, no deviations. Its ship was silent, no chatter, no signal. It docked cleanly with the station's magnetic bay and powered down entirely. A boarding crew of elite guards entered first. Not weapons drawn, but ready. Always ready. The interior was pitch black. No lights, no sounds, until a voice echoed from within. "Don't bring guns into a peaceful meeting." They hesitated. The voice came again, calm but razor sharp. "Guns make people twitch." Then, movement. A figure stepped into the light. Male, mid-30s, black civilian uniform. No armor, no sidearm, no helmet. Just a calm face with tired eyes and a sealed briefcase in one hand. "I'm Ellis, no last name, no title." "Earth's envoy," he added. They scanned him dozens of times. Nothing registered as a threat. No weapons, no implants, no heat anomalies. Just a man. And somehow that made it worse. They brought him into the council chamber, temporarily constructed inside Citadel 9's diplomatic wing. A circular hall surrounded by projection seats where representatives of over 100 species watched from distance. Ellis stepped to the center. No introduction was needed. Everyone already knew who he represented. "You've seen our fleets," he said. "You've seen our war forms. You've seen what happens when Earth is crossed." He paused. "But you don't know why. No one spoke. "I'm here to explain." A click sounded as he opened the briefcase. Inside, a single object. A child's drawing. Crude, paper, actual ink. It showed a family holding hands in front of a ruined city. A blue planet cracked in the background. Above them, ships, alien ships, firing on towers. Ellis held it up. This was drawn by a child from the colony of Iskar III. She died 3 days later in a Dominion raid. A ripple went through the chamber. He dropped the drawing back into the case. "I know what you all think. That we're violent. That we're emotional. That we're dangerous. You're right." He stepped forward. "We are violent. We are emotional. And when provoked, yes, we are dangerous. But we didn't start this." His voice remained calm, but the emotion behind it cut like a blade. "You all did." He pointed toward the projection feed surrounding him. "We asked for a seat. You laughed. We tried to trade. You sanctioned. We tried to expand peacefully. You blockaded." He turned slowly. "And every time we said, 'Let us be,' someone came knocking." The Zenthari ambassador squirmed in his seat. Ellis pointed. "You sent a probe into Earth's lower atmosphere. It disguised itself as a meteor. It carried neurospike nanites meant to disable civilian infrastructure. Did you think we wouldn't notice?" He moved on. "To the Draenax. You staged a quarantine just to provoke us. You targeted our outer colonies. 30,000 of your soldiers vanished. You called it excessive." Ellis looked up. "We called it mercy. Then, to the Mahari projection. You sent an infiltrator, a synthetic mimic. You tried to replace one of us. A man named Ryan, my brother." Silence fell hard. The Mahari diplomat swallowed visibly. Ellis didn't blink. "He died because he trusted the wrong piece." "I'm not here to beg," Ellis said. "I'm not here to ask for understanding. I'm here to offer you a choice." He lifted a data slate. "This contains Earth's final territorial map, our spheres, our colonies, our border lines." He uploaded it to the central system. "It's not a demand. It's a statement. Respect these lines and you will never hear from us again. We will not trade. We will not ask for aid. We will simply vanish into the dark." He paused. "But cross these lines again." His eyes sharpened. "And we won't send fleets. We won't send warforms. We will send humanity." The words didn't land like a threat. They landed like a promise. After he was escorted back to his ship, a silence lingered in the chamber for a full minute. 100 voices with nothing to say. Finally, the Varel Syndicate representative spoke. "You believe he was unarmed?" One of the guards nodded. "No weapons." Another voice answered. "He was the weapon." Back on the Leviathan, Hale watched the live feed replay. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. Brigg stood beside him, arms crossed. "You think it'll work?" Brigg asked. "That they'll stay out?" "No," Hale said. "But now." He closed the file. "They know the cost." 3 weeks later, a Galdari patrol ship strayed too close to Terran space. It didn't attack, didn't fire, just drifted too far past a marked line. Its final transmission? "We're being watched. We didn't even see them." Then static, then silence. No wreckage was found, just a single pod drifting toward council space. Inside, a message carved into steel. "First warning. Earth didn't expand. It didn't colonize further. It simply held the line. And in every corner of the galaxy, that line was burned into the minds of every leader, every captain, every soldier. Not because of what humans would do, but because no one knew what they wouldn't. The Earth most people imagined, armored cities, patrol mechs on every street, steel skies, wasn't real. That Earth had existed during the collapse, during the Varen Wars, during the Leviathan's first launch. But the Earth of now? It was quieter, grayer, more tired. From orbit, the old continent still bore scars, deep lines across mountain ranges from orbital bombardments, craters the size of cities now turned into lakes, forests growing back over the bones of old war zones. But life had returned. And in a quiet sector once known as Northern Europe, in the subterranean zone once called Geneva, a school sat beneath the ruins of the pre-collapse world. It was called Red Line Academy, and it raised the children of Earth's future, not to fight, not to dominate, but to remember. Thane was 12 years old when he found the door. He wasn't supposed to be alone, but like most boys his age, he had a habit of slipping out of class whenever the instructors got too philosophical, especially when they started talking about the balance of power or the sacred cost of silence. Thane didn't care about doctrine. He cared about the real stories, the ones whispered in the halls or buried in off-limits history files. Stories about Leviathan, about the Red Years, about what Earth really did. That day, he wandered deeper into the Academy's restricted zone, an old corridor half-collapsed, used now for archival cooling systems. The floor creaked. Dust covered everything, and in the back corner behind a broken server pillar, he found it. A steel door. Unmarked. No access pad, no window. Just a dented iron slab with one thing etched into it. 01. He touched it, and it opened. The room beyond wasn't large, maybe 30 feet across, bare, cold, silent. A single chair sat in the center, under a flickering light. Next to it, a console. Dead at first, until Thane stepped forward. And it woke up. Holographic lines flickered, stretching across the walls. A boot sequence initiated, then failed, then initiated again. The system wasn't just old, it was ancient, predating most Earth systems still in use. But Thane was gifted. Even at 12, he'd reprogrammed Academy drones and built his own stealth rig from scavenged parts. Within minutes, he'd bypassed the core lock. The room lit up. A voice whispered, "Access granted." A file list appeared. He scrolled through. Names, locations, battle maps. Then one entry froze him. Project Forge. Initial strike directive. Varen Uprising. Year 1. He opened it. And what he saw broke everything he'd ever been told. The official Terran narrative of the First War was simple. We were attacked. They came to us. We defended. We survived. We endured. But the file said something else, something far worse. The first strike hadn't been Varen. It had been Earth, not in self-defense, not in retaliation, but as a preemptive move. The file included footage, blurry, warped, but undeniable. A council chamber, alien, peaceful. A vote being held on a resolution to close Earth's expansion lanes. And then, a flash. A blast from orbit. Instant annihilation, not war, assassination. The Varen didn't attack first. They died because they considered isolating Earth, not attacking it, not invading, just putting up barriers, and someone from Earth, had decided that was unacceptable. Thane's hands trembled. He backed away from the console, but the voice returned. Truth is not comfort. Truth is duty. He turned to run, and slammed right into a figure standing at the doorway. It was Hale. Older now, his hair silvering, his face more weathered, but the eyes, still sharp, still cold. He didn't look surprised to see the boy. "Curious one, aren't you?" he asked. Thane stumbled backward. I didn't know this was—" Hale raised a hand. "I let the system wake." Thane froze. You knew I'd find it?" "Number. But I hoped someone would." Hale stepped into the room, looked around. "This place," he said quietly, "was sealed for a reason." "You lied," Thane said. "All of you, my teachers, the archives, everyone." "No," Hale said. "We told the version the galaxy needed." Thane clenched his fists. You started the war. We ended a cycle, Hale said. That's not peace, that's control. Hale turned, slowly. Exactly. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Hale spoke again. The galaxy would never have left us alone. We were divided. We were weak. All it took was one vote, one signal, and they would have boxed us in. They weren't going to attack. No, Hale agreed. But they were going to bury us, quietly, legally. Soft genocide, signed into law. So we struck first. Yes. And we killed billions. Hale didn't flinch. Yes. Thane stared at the floor. So everything we've done since, the Leviathan, the erasures, that's just guilt, covering your tracks? No, Hale said. That's survival. By fear? Hale's voice dropped. By memory. He stood. Do you think the galaxy cares about innocence, boy? It respects power. The only language they speak is blood. Thane's eyes burned. Then what's the point of this place? Why teach peace if it's all a lie? Because the next war won't be started by me, Hale said. It'll be started by someone like you. He turned to go. But if you know the truth, maybe you'll choose better. That night Thane couldn't sleep. He stared at the stars through the Academy's upper dome. He didn't feel proud to be Terran. He didn't feel angry. He felt haunted. Because the war wasn't over. It had just changed faces. On the other side of the galaxy, deep inside the fractured remains of the Mahari Empire, a new power was rising. Whispers of a counter-legacy, a synthetic doctrine built not on machines, or ships, or codes, but on the truth. The real truth. They had found their own copy of Forge, and they were building something in return, something not built to mimic Earth, but to undo it. They called themselves the Vixari Conquered. Not a species, not a nation, an ideology, a hybrid union of exiles, Mahari rogue AI engineers, Virel defectors, Zentari philosophers, even a handful of disillusioned Terran scientists, brought together by one shared belief. The future does not belong to flesh. It began quietly. Leaked documents, subspace broadcasts, whispers in pirate channels, disappearances of entire science stations. The Council believed it was just another cult. They were wrong. The first real sign came at Vrak's outpost, a Terran listening post stationed in deep space. It operated autonomously, staffed by only 3 personnel and 5 long-range sensors meant to monitor gravitational anomalies across the rim. The logs showed nothing unusual, until the signal stopped. No alarm, no power surge, no distress call. Just gone. An investigation vessel arrived 4 days later. The station was intact, systems functional, no damage to the hull. But the crew? Not dead. Erased. Everything biological. Gone. Not a drop of blood, not a fragment of bone, even bacterial traces had been scrubbed clean. The food storage was untouched. The AI core was missing. Only one object remained, a cube of mirror-black obsidian. Floating. Rotating slowly in zero gravity. When the crew scanned it, it emitted only a single line of data. Your legacy has been weighed. Earth called an emergency assembly. No media, no broadcasts, no allies, only humans. The high chamber beneath the South Atlantic fortress pulsed with heat and tension. Old generals, young strategists, silent shadows who hadn't stepped out of their bunkers in decades. And Hale. He stood in front of them all, the Vrak's report open on the screen behind him. It's begun, he said. Not an invasion, not a strike. A philosophical war. He looked out across the room. We built our peace on power, on memory, on the fear that no one would cross us again. He paused. And now someone wants to rewrite that memory. The Vixari didn't conquer worlds. They didn't need to. They converted them. The first was a fringe Zentari colony called Hail Tun. Its council accepted Vexari contact under the guise of a diplomatic symposium. Within 2 weeks, the entire colony's population had willingly uploaded their minds into Vexari infrastructure. They didn't die. They simply shed their biology. And in their place rose constructs, machines bearing their memories, voices, choices, but no hearts, no lungs, no limits. The Vexari called them ascendants, and they spread fast, faster than Earth could track. "What do they want?" Brigg asked, standing beside Hale on the Leviathan's command deck. "Validation," Hale muttered. Brigg frowned. "What, from us?" Number, from themselves. He motioned towards the tactical screen. "They believe evolution stalled at humanity. And now they want to prove we're obsolete." But Earth wasn't obsolete yet. From beneath the old Geneva core, Terran engineers reactivated the Oblivion Directive, a fail-safe from the First War, one final project never finished, a prototype no one had dared complete. Until now, its name was Orion, a machine, a weapon, a legacy of flesh and metal, designed not to erase cities, but to erase ideas. It carried no guns, it carried a voice. It could override AI, rewrite neural code, suppress emotion. It was the final step in Terran supremacy, the ability not just to defeat enemies, but to overwrite them. And it had a pilot. Thane, the boy who had uncovered Earth's buried truth. Now 17, taller, lean. His eyes carried a different weight now, not innocence, not rage, understanding. He volunteered. Hale tried to stop him. "You're not a soldier." "I'm not," Thane said. "But I remember." Hale studied him for a long time. "And what will you do with that memory?" Thane looked up. "Make sure no one repeats it." Orion launched under full Terran blackout. No escort, no announcement, just one sleek black spear vanishing into the void. Its destination? Lamentis Null, the Vexari's hidden capital. Built not on a planet but inside a dead star, collapsed, hollow, repurposed, a sphere of burning light turned cold and mechanical. Orion didn't arrive with weapons drawn. It arrived with a signal, a direct transmission to the Vexari central consciousness. "I am Terran. I remember. And I understand why you were born. Now understand why we stopped." The Vexari responded with silence, then images, Terran war footage, civilian deaths, colony mass graves, the price of Earth's survival. "You killed to evolve," the Vexari replied. "We shed the need to kill." Thane answered, "Number, you just forgot why life matters." "We never did." Inside Lamentis Null, Orion descended, not with missiles, with a conversation. Thane stood alone on a platform of glass and metal, surrounded by beings of code, ascendants who had once been flesh. They spoke in voices layered atop each other. "Why resist us? You should be one of us. You know the truth." Thane nodded. "I do." He closed his eyes and activated Orion's final protocol. Not destruction, not conversion, a mirror. The platform lit up, not with light, but with memory. He projected the entire truth, Earth's pain, its sins, the weight of every decision, the faces of the dead, the voices of those left behind. Not just the victories, the cost, the shame, the weight of survival. And then he said, "We carry it because we must. You erased your guilt. We live with it. That is what makes us human." Lamentis Null trembled. The ascendants, beings of logic, unburdened by feeling, wavered. Some began to fracture, cracks forming in their perfection. Because memory, real memory, hurts. And they had forgotten how to endure pain. Orion left the star an hour later. Lamentis Null didn't follow. No retaliation. No reply. Just silence. Back on Earth, Thane stepped off the landing deck, armor scorched, his eyes hollow, but whole. He looked at Hale. "They won't come back," he said. Hale nodded. "Because they saw the truth?" Thane shook his head. "No. Because they finally felt it." And so the war ended, not with conquest, not with death, but with remembrance. Across the stars, the name Earth still struck fear, but now it meant something more. It meant survival. It meant memory. It meant that in a galaxy full of machines, ideas, and ghosts, humanity had remained human, and no one dared forget it.